So this one is going to be a big seller. So last year in 2023, Americans spent somewhere between $5 and $12 billion on Halloween decorations. It's a huge markup. You guys probably either are or you know somebody that is a Halloween fanatic. You guys are missing out if you don't make something that they can buy, especially something that's fast and easy to carve. They can just buy as a stock item. So today we're using the template of the month for October 2024. This is the Scarecrow Pumpkin. We're also using our 2-inch creepy font. Now this one's special. This is just a seasonal font. It will be available as of when you see this and only through the month of October. So if you want this creepy font, we've got them in all different sizes. Definitely you need to order them right away and then they won't be available after that. All of the other stuff we're using is over on the website, all the bits, the base plate, so go check out makeawoodsign.com. Let's get started.
For this sign, we're using a piece of blue pine that's 6 by 24 inches. Dad's marking 1 inch from each end to give us enough room to put the rough edge on there. Now this font is actually really easy to lay out, especially if you're doing it from the top of the letters, because you see the top of each one is flat. So Dad's going to make his marks to make sure that he has even spacing on top and bottom, as well as the marks he already made for left to right. Then he's just going to line the top of all the letters up to make sure that it goes straight, and then spray it with the black primer. This actually only took about 4 minutes. The first bit Dad's using is our carving liner at 1/8 of an inch deep. Now this is one of those bits that you only want to use when you absolutely need it, but he definitely needed it for this template. There's a lot of really small lines and a lot of fine detail. But you'll notice that Dad's not doing the whole thing with this bit. He's only doing the areas that he absolutely has to. The carving liner is a great cutting bit for detail, but it's not very good if you have a lot of area you're going to carve. It only has a single flute and a really fine tip. So you really want to use this only when you need it. It will dull quite a bit faster than, say, your profile bit, especially faster than the 60 or the 90. So this is a specialty one. This is the bit that I tell people to get fourth. Your profile, your 60, and your 90, those will do 80% of all your carving, and this one is the next one you want to get for your detail.
Hey guys, real quick, do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. We're really trying to hit a goal in 2024 for a certain amount of subscribers. You would really be doing us a big favor. We've got over 2,600 videos. They're all free for you. All we're asking is hit that subscribe button. We sure appreciate it.
Now that he's done with the carving liner, Dad put in the profile bit at 1/8 of an inch deep. Now there's still some fine lines in here, so that's why he's going at 1/8 of an inch instead of 3/16. One thing you want to remember is that the depth of your cut is important, but even more so is the width. And with the shape of the profile bit, the deeper you go, the wider it's going to cut. So if he would have dropped it any wider than this, then he would have been cutting outside the lines. So he's going in multiple steps. First the carving liner, then the profile at 1/8 of an inch deep, then he's going to drop it again and go in and go over everything and give himself some more room. Now it's kind of a pain to go in multiple steps, but with the time you put in the layout, not to mention cutting the board and buying the board and all that stuff, you don't want to skip steps and just make a nice piece of firewood. You want to do it right. Now that all the profile work is done on the template, Dad's going to take that same profile bit and drop it down to 3/16 of an inch deep to do the Outset letters. This creepy font is a blast to carve, and it presents a couple of unique challenges, ones that really you don't have with any of our other fonts. The biggest one is where the fine points are, like right at the bottom of the T and the bottom of really all the letters. It kind of forces you to lift your base a little bit and try to get in there as good as you can. It's not difficult, but if you've never done something like this, it is a bit of a challenge. But I would suggest you get this font simply because it helps you practice with those fine points. Also, when it comes to Halloween stuff, this font is perfect. And like Dad said, that's a huge market that you definitely want to be a part of. Now, because Dad's doing these Outset, he has a little bit of room for error. Not a whole lot, because this stuff is kind of condensed on the board, so he doesn't have a ton of room, but you'll notice that he's going over the same line multiple times, which is really nice. You don't have to get the first line perfect. You can work your way in. So remember, when you're doing something like this, take your time and work your way into the line. Now that the initial profile is done on the letters, Dad's going to take that same profile bit and drop it down to 1/4 of an inch deep. Now remember what I said earlier, it's not necessarily about the depth, but about the width of the cut. And doing this is going to give Dad a lot more room to do the outline with the 90-degree bit. Now these letters are, like I said, all kind of condensed on the board, so Dad's not going to do a really big cloud. It's just going to be kind of a bold line around it. So doing this step right here, going over everything at 1/4 of an inch deep, is going to give Dad a lot more room for error, a lot more wiggle room to go back in with the 90-degree bit and make it a bolder line so it stands out more. Now Dad put in the 90-degree bit at 1/4 of an inch deep. Now normally when we do Outset letters, we do kind of a bigger cloud to let it pop a little bit more, but we don't have room for that. So Dad is essentially just following the shape of the letters, but he's connecting them. So it's all going to be one piece. It's not going to be individual little clouds around it. And I wasn't sure about that at first. I kind of thought because it's going to be a smaller cloud that they should be individual. But as usual, I was wrong and Dad was right. It actually looks really cool the way Dad did it. So he just connected all 3 words together, and then he's going to go back in and take out the little areas of wood in between, like between the T and the R and between the 3 letters. This whole sign took Dad start to finish maybe 20 minutes. Maybe. Once all the carving's done, don't forget to brush it. Use a stiff bristle brush and get in there and get all of the loose sawdust, the loose little chips, and get everything out. Otherwise, it's going to be a pain once you spray and sand it. For the edge, Dad's using our disc sander, which, by the way, if you guys don't have one of these, my gosh, we use it almost every day. It is the best tool ever. And he's just going around the edge and he's kind of making a random rough looking edge. Notice that where it gets real close to the edge of the board, Dad doesn't make as big of chips in there, but it's just kind of a random rough looking edge. And Dad says he has a hard time with anything random, but I don't think so. I think this edge looks perfect and it really goes with the whole theme of the sign. Once everything's carved, brushed, blown off, now Dad's going to spray it with the black primer. Now this is pine, so he's being real careful not to overspray. What you're looking for is puddling. Any puddling is going to create some problems for you down the line when you start to sand. Once it's all dry, then Dad's going to use an 80 grit disc on our disc sander and then a 120 grit disc on the random orbital to give it a good smooth finish and take off all that black. Now for the color, Dad's just using an orange Sharpie. You can use paint, you can use stain, but stain is really difficult to do on individual letters. If you're just doing a whole board, not a big deal. Individual letters is quite a bit harder. And the Sharpie actually holds up pretty good. I had a sign outside my house with Sharpie on it that I had to redo once a year, but other than that, it looked pretty good. And if it's going to be indoor, you don't even have to worry about that. Just make sure you put the Sharpie on before you do your clear. And then once it's all done, we use our Rust-Oleum clear, and man, this thing looks awesome.
So there it is, guys. When I started this thing, I had a vision of the way it would look in my mind, but it came out even cooler than I thought it would. I think the blue pine was a perfect material to use for this type of sign with those dark streaks running through there. The creepy font is so much fun to carve. It really is very forgiving. The fact that we did the rough edge on there just with a sander went really, really quick. That was Ryan's idea. And the way we use the orange Sharpie is a super easy way to go, especially for an indoor sign. I wouldn't do that for an outdoor sign if it's going to be outside all the time, but for just a short period of time during the Halloween season, it definitely could be outside. So again, I just love the way this thing came out. And I believe this would be a really big seller. This type of sign, this time of year, everything that we use today is links in the description below. Go over and check out makeawoodsign.com. Thanks again for watching, guys. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.